Hey guys, our next inheritance pattern are epistatic alleles. Now, what does epi mean? Epi means above or upon, which is the opposite of hypo. Hypo means below. So in epistatic alleles, it means that there is a gene, a different gene, that controls the expression of another gene called the hypostatic allele. So in an epistatic allele, for example, with Labrador retrievers, there's three basic colors. You've got black, brown, and yellow. Well, black is dominant to brown. So to get a brown lab, it would have to be homozygous recessive. To get a black lab, you would have to have at least one big B as part of the genotype. However, if we have an epistatic allele present, okay, the only way that the dog can be expressed as black or brown is if the epistatic allele allows it to be expressed. So if you have a big E, that means go ahead, you can express one of these two colors. However, if we have a homozygous recessive epistatic allele, that means nope, the pigmentation required for a black or a brown lab will not be deposited into the fur of that dog. So instead, you're going to get a yellow lab. So the different genotypes for a lab could be big B, doesn't matter what the second genotype is, the second allele, as long as we have a capital E. Again, those blanks just indicate it does not matter what the next allele is, whether that's a big B or a little b, or a big E or a little e, doesn't matter. However, for a brown lab, you have to have two little b's, and then the E, again, does not matter if it's homozygous or heterozygous. For a yellow lab, you have to have the two little e's, which remember means we're not going to deposit the pigmentation for a black or a brown lab. So even if the genotype, let's say, is big B, which would code for a black lab, with this present, this means the pigmentation will not be deposited, and this will be a yellow lab. If we had this genotype, this normally would have been a brown lab. However, because of the epistatic allele, this pigmentation will not be deposited, and instead we're going to get a yellow lab. Let's work a problem out. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cross this black lab. Now remember, it's black because we have this big E that says go ahead and express this trait, which in this case is black. We're going to cross it with, this is a yellow lab. Remember that the yellow lab always has a homozygous recessive E's at the end. So this is technically a yellow lab. If you remember, we're going to kind of factor to get our parental genotypes on the top and the side. So the first one is we're going to cross this big B and a little e. Remember what that means is this particular parent can only pass on one allele at a time. So either this big B or this little b, along with either this big E or that little e. So that's just one combination. Another combination is the big B and the little e. This parent could pass on a little b with a big E, or pass on the little b with the little e. The next parent could pass on a big B with the little e, this big B with this other little e, this little b with this little e, or this little b with that little e. Okay, we have our parental genotypes established and written. What I want you to do is to work it out and then come back, pause the video, come back, and compare your answers to mine. Okay, so go ahead and pause. All right, you should be back, and yours should be pretty similar to mine. So what I like to do first is to find all of the yellow labs. If you don't find the yellow labs first, it's not going to work out. So trust me, find all of your yellow labs. So to be yellow, you have to have two little e's. So I underlined every yellow lab in yellow, and we end up with 8 yellow labs. Next, we want to find our black labs. Okay, the rest of them have to have at least one big E to allow the expression of either the black or the brown pigmentation. So we're looking for all of the dogs with at least one big B. So I underlined all of those in blue, and it comes out to be 6. And then finally, we want to find all of ours that have little b with a big E. That came out to being 2 brown labs. Remember, we have 16 boxes, so our numbers need to add up to 16. 8 plus 6 plus 2 does add up to 16, so that means we haven't double counted or we haven't missed one. Okay, that's epistatic alleles, and I hope that was helpful.